David here with Figboot on pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you another retailer exclusive limited edition pen from Leonardo, and that would be the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande Van Gogh. What I am going to do today is go over the parts and features of this artistic offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Limited Pens Korea for providing this pen for review. Since I had mentioned this was a retailer exclusive, you could safely deduce that this pen is only available through Limited Pens Korea, who has done a very good job working with a number of manufacturers to produce intriguing and quality limited edition offerings. They have a website that's well worth staying on top of. As you will see, in my opinion, this pen has a lot going for it. And while I wouldn't categorize it as inexpensive, I feel it's a good value for what you receive. Well, what is it that you receive? This pen right here. This is the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande Van Gogh. This is a limited edition of 50 pens. It's made from a Jonathan Brooks resin, which does have a complementary mix of browns and golds and coppers, and even a hint of blue and green. The mild pearlescence really helps give the material some depth and helps it come alive. It does look like what I would imagine the Dutch master's painting of a tree would look like. Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists. He was known for his bold, dramatic, and choppy brushstrokes, as well as wavy, expressive lines. This is one of his most recognizable works, Starry Night, which hangs in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. This is a somewhat blurry picture I took of one of my favorite pieces of his. This is called Irises and hangs in the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. Whenever I am in LA, I try to make it a point to visit the Getty, even if it's just for a quick trip to say hello to this piece as well as a few other pieces in their collection that I'm very fond of. One of my favorite Doctor Who episodes features the painter. Well, not actually him, an actor portraying him. And the doctor takes him to the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. It's an incredibly emotional clip, and if you've never seen it and have 3 minutes to spare, I highly recommend you checking it out. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. Getting back to this pen, I am a big fan of the Momento Zero and the Momento Zero Grande models from Leonardo. I love the size and overall looks of this model, especially the plus-sized Grande model. And I like that all Momento Zero models aren't the same in regard to the trim and certain other elements of the design. I like that there can be like a variety within the same basic model. Okay, let's take a look at the parts and features of this pen. The top of the cap comes to a rounded coned point. This transitions into the clip. It is a standard Leonardo wheeled clip. I like the looks of wheeled clips, and they're functional as well. This wheel helps this clip accommodate materials both thick and thin. The clip on the Grande model is the exact size as on the standard Momento model, which in my opinion causes it to look just a little bit short on this Grande model. I might like it more if the clip on the Grande model was about like a 1/4 inch longer, but that's a very minor thing. The cap tapers up slightly until the end where it straightens out. This specific pen I have here was one of the production samples, and it doesn't have any engraving on the back, but I feel it's safe to assume that the version of this pen that will be shipped will have something engraved on the back of the cap. I like how Leonardo does their engraving. It's not filled and it's very subtle. Sometimes you need to catch it in the right light to even notice it's there. I like it when things are essentially hidden in plain sight like that. At the end of the cap, we have 3 thin bands. This is one of the areas where Momento Zero models can have a variety. I'll show a few different examples during the size comparisons, but there's a number of different bands used on the Momento Zero and Momento Zero Grandes. At the end of the cap, there is a stair-step transition into the barrel. In this picture, the part after the step down and before the thin ring on the right is an extension of the cap, and the barrel begins with that ring. The barrel tapers down until you reach another thin band, signifying the beginning of the piston knob. And at the end of the barrel, like the top of the cap, it comes to a rounded coned point. The cap twists off with a single rotation, and underneath we have something that I feel is a real highlight of this pen. It is a 14 karat gold number 8 nib. They call this their La Fenice nib, which translates from Italian to mean the phoenix. I love number 8 nibs, and I think this one with the Leonardo winged logo and stamped nib imprint looks really sharp. Now, I try and take these pictures before I ink up the pen so it can look as pristine as possible, but this is what the nib looks like after it's been used for a little bit. I wouldn't categorize this as nib creep, but I do like how the emerald ink I have in here gets in some of the nooks and crannies of this nib. And here's a look at the ebonite feed. For their number 8 nibs, Leonardo uses this thicker, more rounded feed. For their gold number 6 nibs, they use a feed that has kind of a lower profile to it. The section begins with a small flare and then angles up slightly until you reach the threads and a medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. I'm very fond of the thickness and length of this section. For my personal taste, it's just about perfect. The threads and barrel transition are far enough back for me that they don't really come into play. But even when they do, they're both smooth and don't hamper my grip at all. The cap does post, and while this is a fairly large pen, the cap does post deeply enough that I don't feel that it adds any unwieldy length. In addition, the cap is fairly light, so I don't feel that posting backweights the pen or throws off the balance. It's a bit of a rare thing. It's a large pen, which is very usable when posted. Now, I have mentioned the piston knob a few times, so you can safely deduce that this is a piston filler. I won't twist it right now because the pen is inked, but I find the mechanism to be smooth and operate well. The pen does have a decent ink capacity of 15 milliliters, so that's nice as well. In addition, you can fully disassemble this piston mechanism if you have one of the Leonardo wrenches, which are sold separately. The Leonardo Momento Grande Van Gogh is an exclusive to Limited Pens Korea. I will put a link to where you can find the pen on their site in the notes below. And the pen retails for $595. And I feel that that's a fair price for what you receive with this pen. It is an exquisite resin from Jonathan Brooks. It has a very nice number 8 gold nib, and the Momento Grande is just an overall solid pen design. Yeah, there is a lot to like about this offering. And I encourage you to check out the other offerings Limited Pens Korea has to offer as well. They've done a really good job with partnering up with folks to produce some intriguing offerings. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Leonardo Momento Grande Van Gogh. I think Jonathan did a great job with the resin on this, depicting what a tree that Van Gogh painted would look like, with the browns and golds and coppers and even blues in there. I think that accurately represents his work. And in regard to a few other Leonardo models, I thought it looked somewhat similar to this model here. This one was actually done by Tim McKenzie, the resin was. This one was called the Foresta Umbra, and that's just a standard Momento Zero. And then we have a couple of more Momento Grande models. This one was called the Ocean Sunrise, and that one was available through Limited Pens Korea as well. I'm not sure if it's still available or not. And then finally, here is another one, which is the Primary Manipulation 4 from Jonathan Brooks. And you can see here that each one of these has a separate, different type of band, and that the bands can vary on each of the individual Leonardo models, which is nice. In regard to some non-Leonardo pens, here it is with a Lamy All-Star. And here it is with a TWSBI VAC 700 Iris. And finally, here is a Visconti model, which was modeled after the Van Gogh Irises painting, which was, as I mentioned, one of my favorites. And that is their Van Gogh Irises. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Momento Zero and the Lamy All-Star and the TWSBI VAC 700. I wanted to give you a closer look at this nib. I just think that it looks really, really cool. I just think that the stamping on there with the winged logo and the exterior design looks really sharp. And so, especially on this number 8 nib, it just looks really cool. In regard to the writing sample, we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande Van Gogh. And this is a fine 14 karat gold nib. And the ink I'm using is one of my favorites, which is Leonardo Smeraldo. This is what the ink looks like. It's a really nice saturated emerald with some decent shading to it. It looks very similar to another one of my favorites, which is the Stilo and Stile Roman Bronze Oxidation. And then this is what it looks like with Robert Oster's Sooty Shearwater. And this is what the Leonardo 40 milliliter bottles look like. A nice large mouth there, so you can get just about any nib in there. They're nice inks. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This 14 karat gold nib is very nice. It isn't glassy smooth. It has a decent amount of feedback to it. You can get a bit of flex out of it. Not tons, but a sufficient amount. I just like the feel of writing with these number 8 nibs. The ink flow, as I'd say on the medium side. In regard to reverse writing, it's a little scratchy. And you can see here the ink doesn't necessarily keep up. So reverse writing isn't necessarily this nib's thing. In regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande Van Gogh. I will put a link in the notes below where you can check this out on the Limited Pens Korea site. And it's an offering that I think is well worthwhile. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.